Well, I don't know what you do with the people standing around watching, but there are at least 5 suspects charged in connection with the violent Cincinnati brawl that left 2 people seriously injured on Saturday night. The Trump administration is suggesting this should be treated as a hate crime investigation. And while it remains unclear what led to the attack exactly, it is very clear about how violent it got. One of the most disturbing parts of the story is how many people were just standing around watching. Well, clearly not just watching, because we have so much video of it. They were on their phones. One person called 911. Now, here's a warning. Some of what you'll see obviously is disturbing, maybe even graphic. So now let's go to Bryan Llenas, who's in the studio to take us through all of this. Bryan, this video went viral, and parts of it are really hard to watch.
Yeah, absolutely very difficult to watch, Harris. The charges against the 5 suspects are sealed, and we don't even know yet how many, if any, have been arrested. Cincinnati's police chief says we can anticipate, though, more charges against more people. Now, look, the video shows a white man being punched and kicked by a group of black people in downtown Cincinnati on Saturday at 3 a.m. The police have not said how or why this started. The police chief says alcohol played a significant role, and they've characterized it as a sudden dispute following a verbal altercation. Now, in the brawl, a woman appearing to try to protect the man is sucker punched by another man, appearing to be knocked unconscious. Cincinnati's police chief says 100 people watched or were involved, yet only one person called 911.
I think what they should be angry about is nobody called the police. That is unacceptable, to not call the police when you view this. Traffic was horrendous. People saw this. They were fighting in front of traffic. Why didn't somebody call us?
Vice President J.D. Vance spoke about this yesterday while in Ohio. Listen.
What I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up on an innocent person, and it's disgusting. And I hope every single one of those people who engage in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. When you have a grown man who sucker punches a middle-aged woman, that person ought to go to jail for a very long time.
The Trump administration's Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Harmeet Dillon, suggested hate crime charges could be filed. Quote, our federal hate crime laws apply to all Americans. We at Civil Rights will monitor closely how local authorities handle this attack. Now, Harris, Cincinnati Police Chief warned yesterday the social media video does not depict the entire incident. One video, for instance, we've seen shows other people that perhaps were being beaten down as well, not just the one man. And I will also point out that there has been criticism from Republican Senator Bernie Moreno against the mayor, Purval, of Cincinnati for waiting, what he says, 2 days to release a statement. And he says that he had not contacted any of the victims as of yesterday when that statement came out.
Well, look, it doesn't surprise me that we're going to see the proceeds of more video in all of this. We should see a lot. People were standing around with their cell phones taking pictures and videos instead of calling for help. I understood it took 6 minutes for anybody to get there, and there was no ambulance in the area. I mean, that woman on the ground, that's a lot. Bryan, thank you.
Of course.
Emily, I know that they will bring in more evidence in all of this, but as you look at this is a crime scene.
Yes. First of all, I would never use words like fight or brawl. I would use words like attack, assault. I would charge this, first of all, with attempted murder, because we've seen what one-punch murders can be. This was horrifying. This deserves no place in society. Ohio State has complicit laws, so if you take part in a group beating, then everyone is responsible and on the hook for those that you see on those myriad cameras recording this. So I certainly would charge everyone with the attempted murder. I would charge them with felonious assault. I would charge with them everything under the book. And Harmeet Dillon is absolutely right that if the state doesn't get it right, and I'm not holding my breath, then step in with hate charges at the federal level. This was nauseating to watch. And the amount of tiptoeing around that we have seen from anyone but the vice president and representatives of the federal authorities is so disheartening to boot. So you're telling me it was a fight when you see 100 people, 100 black people beating up 2 white people, and you're not, what if this was 100 white people beating up 2 Asian people? I think it would be pretty clear. There is no place for this in our civilized society. And the fact that Cincinnati downtown in that area was bare and devoid of law enforcement, that is on the shoulders of that police chief, Terry. And there is so much more accountability to be had. That woman was a single mother who was just attending a birthday party. Now she's fighting for her life to the cheers of those 100+ people. And now we're going to have to pay for their 3 square meals a day, by the way, in prison going on. That's what they're going to get. They're going to enjoy the royal treatment in prison. So no matter how you look at this, there's going to be zero accountability for those monsters.
Well, unless they get a soft on crime policy deal. I mean, that's what where is the justice? Can it be meted out the way Emily said? And if the feds get involved, I totally get that. Pierce.
Yeah, sickening on so many levels. We don't know the whole story. But what we do know is the police chief went out, and I saw an extraordinary press conference she gave where she tried to be blaming social media. That was the real problem. The problem wasn't this violent brawl in which so many people rounded on this guy. I don't really care how it started. Whatever it started, it ended with a horrific act of mob violence. And then you have a woman punched unconscious, could have died, like you said. But the real problem is social media, apparently, amplifying the wrong narrative about this. No, we know what we saw. And whatever built up to the moment, we then saw a horrific mass number of people rounding on one guy and a woman knocked cold. And we also saw so many phones out. What has happened to our society? We have this in the UK as well. When the first thought of people, when they see a woman knocked unconscious, who may be dead, is to take a phone out and record it on their phone and then post it on their social media for likes. That is as sickening as almost any other part of this. None of them, apart from one person, call for help. One person with a woman who might be dead on the ground.
Well, and it's still not clear yet, Cheryl, if the one person was in the bank of cars that was being pushed back, the traffic that couldn't come through because this mob was blocking the way for those cars. So there were people inside those vehicles who were also witnessing this.
Yeah, and did nothing except film, to your point. And that police chief coming out and saying this is social media journalism, and she was pointing her finger at the reporters in the room, I thought was so disrespectful. And by the way, this police chief, it was just recently sued this year by 4 lieutenants in her own department for discrimination. There are 4 white lieutenants that are all suing her because they say that she has done nothing but promote minorities and women ahead of them, and they're actually taking her to court over it.
Well, the humanity aspect, obviously, only one person in 100 called the police. What does that tell you about humanity today? But beyond that, there's been a lot of frustration saying, online at least, of saying that if the races were reversed, the coverage that this would get, the immediacy of the coverage that it would get, it would be enormous. And there's statistics to back that up. The Washington Free Beacon did an examination both pre-George Floyd and post-George Floyd and looked at 1,100 articles from 6 major publications and found that post-George Floyd, the media was much more likely at a much significant amount to report on white offenders than they were on black offenders and naming the race. And so I do think there's documented evidence to prove that a lot of those dynamics have changed post George Floyd. But yeah, to see what we saw, does it even matter the how and why of how it started?
Well, it does if we want to keep it from happening again, because Cincinnati seems a bit out of control. And to Emily's point, there were no cops around that could stop it right away. And then there were no emergency services for 6 minutes. I mean, that woman was out. That's a lot.
Where are social police officers? In other words, the public, who you could rely on in the good old days to see a scene like that and rush to that woman's help.
Right thing.
What's happened to social police work?
Daniel Penny. Yeah, Daniel Penny.
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
and then you find yourself in a criminal court facing murder charges.
Or even what they did, the Ferguson effect for police officers. I mean, police officers have even been fearful to do their jobs post-Ferguson. Rahm Emanuel said that, Democrat Rahm Emanuel.
But this was this was gleeful, wasn't it? This was gleeful recording. We're enjoying this. Look at this.
Correct.
Give me a like.
The worst of us.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Compagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.